Hello, welcome to week 3 of our class in international business. In this week, I want to cover a couple different things real quickly. First of all, the content of this week talks more about the business aspects rather than the cultural aspects of this class. And so we're still going to start thinking about how do we go about making our business, if we have a small business, how do we make it international, right? What steps have to be taken and things like that. So this is going to be, a little bit more of a business class, from this point onward than maybe a sociology class. All right. Now, personally, I think the stuff that we've done the first 2 weeks is more interesting than the cold business stuff, but so be it. But one of the things that we're going to cover is, okay, so you've decided you're going to become international. How do you go about doing it? What's going to be a strategy? And what you'll find out is there are lots of strategies. There are a lot of ways that businesses have gone international. Some of them have been, quite honestly, accidental, right? You have customers, international customers, that become aware of your product, and you start getting in requests. Can you send us one of these? Sell us one of your products? Unfortunately, we're in Mexico City, but if you can send it to us, we'll pay for, the expense of getting it here, or things like that, right? So you can get into international business purely by accent because customers from around the world may have found you. They may have found you while they're in South Texas on vacation. They may have found you on your social media or your internet presence. There's a lot of ways in our current world where customers can find you even if they are not in the same country that you are in, right? You also could approach this as a much more aggressive tactic that you have purposefully gone out and not accidentally, but on purpose decided you are going to enter a foreign market. Well, again, there's going to be a lot of different ways to do this, right? And your readings will cover this, and we can maybe talk about it a little bit more next week when we get a little bit together, right? But there's a little bit of overview as to how the readings of this week are going to go. But I want to cover something else here. And what I'm covering is the group project. All right. Now, as I mentioned that going forward, we're going to be asking, how does a company become international? And to the extent that it is something that the company has chosen to actively pursue, okay, we've got a group project that is kind of in that realm, okay? And to set up the story a little bit, okay, what we're going to do is imagine that we work for an American company. You can make up your own name for the company. All right. This idea of this company comes a little bit, not completely out of thin air, because I think I've actually worked for the person that I'm describing, not in this industry. But anyway, let's set the stage. You are a domestic manufacturer, and you sell pretty much fixtures, anything that you could find in American residential bathrooms, right? So that would be things like showers, other plumbing fixtures, sinks, etc. Towel racks, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff that you will find in a typical American bathroom, right? Now, the founder of this company Their idea, their inspiration for starting this company 50 years ago was that it came in a dream. Okay? It was not sleeping that night or dreaming, and it all of a sudden, voices in his head said, "You should start a bathroom fixture company. You'd be good at it, right? And there you'll be successful doing it." And he started this business 50 years ago because of that dream, right? And over the last period of time, it has remained a privately held company, right? So the founder and a handful of, uh, his children and family members still hold and own the majority of the company, right? It's 50 years later. He's 80 years old. He hasn't he's almost completely stepped away from the business, except he's still chairman of the board, and he will still sit in at the monthly staff meetings. And these staff meetings are run by the president and CEO of the company, who doesn't really matter, but turns out to be the daughter-in-law of his, right? Okay, so it's still somewhat in the family. Okay, and all of the direct reports that report to the CEO. So the head of marketing, the head of engineering, the head of, all the important people, the 10 or 12 highest ranking people report to the CEO, and she has a staff meeting once a month. All right. And in this staff meeting, you got a report from her that she had talked with the founder, who still owns a good chunk of the business, the majority of the business, right? But the founder had another dream. Okay. Now he has these regularly, and some of them have been brilliant, which is why your company has gotten to become the third largest manufacturer in this space in the United States, right? Okay. So sometimes his dreams are brilliant. Sometimes his dreams are not so brilliant. Not so much, right? Okay. And so he is not expecting his company to blindly, just because he had a dream this week, drop everything and pursue his dream. But he's been successful, and a good chunk of his dream ideas have turned out to be very, very fruitful. Again, some have not. Right? So what he is expecting is that he wanted to communicate this to his daughter-in-law, now CEO and president, right? To contemplate whether this idea is worth pursuing. His idea was, in the middle of the night, he came to the conclusion we should expand internationally, and in particular, we should expand to blank country. Okay. Each one of you will have a different country to fill in that blank, right? Now, in the staff meeting, the CEO asks around, does anybody know what we need to know about this country? And the answer is, no, we don't know nothing. All right? And she picks a group of 3 out of that group, and you're one of those, you and your group, you're one of the 3 in your group, and you've been tasked with the following statement. I want you 3 to investigate this country and figure out what we need to know in order to make an intelligent decision as a board, as a group, as to whether this is one of the dreams that might be worth pursuing, or whether this dream is one of these things that we say, thanks, but no thanks. I think we're probably better off without doing. Right? Now, she makes it quite clear the three of you are not being asked to make that decision. We will come back and make that decision as a group, right? But what I am asking you is, by the time that we have our next staff meeting next month, I want you guys to investigate this country and investigate everything we need to know in order to intelligently discuss this as a group and decide whether we should spend resources going this route or not. Again, she points out your task is not to make a recommendation or make a decision as to whether we're going to do it. Your job is to provide the information we would all need to know in order to intelligently discuss it. Right? And then we'll make a decision together as a group. She continues on and says, I put on next staff meeting you guys on the calendar to do a presentation for us. Okay. I slotted 20 minutes for you to do it. Okay. So you raise your hand and you say, well, what do you need us to include? And she says, quote, I have no freaking idea. I don't know anything about this country. I don't know what I don't know, right? So you're going to have to educate us on what you found and why that's important a little bit for us to know, right? If I knew what it was that you were looking for, we wouldn't need to have you go investigate it. And I don't want to give you a laundry list and then leave out a lot of the stuff that it turns out would be very important for us to have known because it wasn't on our list. But we don't know to put it on the list because we don't know anything about the country, right? Okay. So, unfortunately, I can't give you guidance as to what should be in your presentation. Okay? You have to give yourself the guidance. You have to learn enough to learn about what things are really important for us to know and what things are really not important for us to know. Right? You have to give yourself self-guidance. Okay? That's the project. Now, because all of you are in different locations, typically the presentation, okay, may very well be done remotely. Okay, and in the world of COVID, during the last couple of years, very large number of these staff meetings were held via Zoom. Okay, even to this day, staff meetings, some staff meetings here at the university are still done via Zoom, via in a live format. In some companies, there's a long tradition about meetings being held remotely, via video conference and so on and so forth, right? Since this is a not an in-person class, but an online class, what we're going to have you do is prepare your presentations and have you tape them. So you will have a PowerPoint deck that you will be providing, and during that PowerPoint presentation, you will be speaking over the slides and having the slides move accordingly, so that if for some reason you're out ill because you got COVID or some other reason, we will just play your presentation for the rest of the group. right? So if this were an in-person class, and when I teach it in person, this assignment has you guys coming up to the front of the board, front of the room, and doing your presentation live. This is not an in-person class, so I'm going to have you guys do it via tape, right? So, anyways, this project is due August 1st, a couple days before the end of the class, right? And you're going to be doing a presentation. Now, I mentioned a couple different things about this presentation. First of all, I mentioned 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes put on the schedule. Now, I want to make it quite clear that when you are given 20 minutes in a management meeting, typically that means you cannot go over those 20 minutes, right? It screws up everything else that was going to be covered during that period of time. So you will have a 20-minute maximum time. What is your minimum time? I'll say the minimum time is the amount of time it requires you to get the information across. Okay. Can I imagine you doing it in 5 minutes? The answer is no. You'd have to be extraordinarily good at communications. Okay. 25 minutes is too long. If you come a few minutes fewer, I don't think there's anybody that objects to leaving a meeting a few minutes early, right? But again, you've been allocated 20 minutes. So assume, work backwards from that. Okay. If you find that that you're going over 25, you have to peel back things. All right. I kind of already mentioned, okay, that guidance is not something you're going to get. Get used to it. All right. Things in business, there's an adage in business about what you should be worried about. And it turns out it's not necessarily the things you don't know that kill you. It's the things you don't know you don't know. Okay? You can manage around, as soon as you don't know something that's important, you can manage around that. But you can't manage around not knowing something you didn't know you didn't know. Okay? And that's going to be the biggest part of your issues. You're going to need to find out what the important things are. The things that you didn't know you didn't know. All right? So it's going to take you a lot more research than you think it does. All right? Now, each one of your countries is going to be different. Okay? So, what is important to know about Canada is probably not the same stuff that's important to know about Sri Lanka. Okay? They're very, very different. They're very, very different in relations to here in the United States. And the stuff that's really important, is different. If one of you would have been given Ukraine, the fact that they're in a war is probably the most important thing to talk about right now, right? By the way, none of you have Ukraine. Okay? But, if you're doing Canada, the war in Ukraine is probably not something that is important to know. Not for bathroom paper, not for residential bathroom fixtures in Canada. Right? So, anyway, I hope that gives you a little bit of guidance and the lack of guidance. Okay. I have given you a technical assignment, okay? And this is really a technical assignment, okay, that gives you a PowerPoint deck that has a few pictures, and an audio of teaching a child subtraction. Okay. The technical assignment is to merge the two. So you have a PowerPoint when it is played, okay, that has the audio and then has the slides changing at the appropriate times. Okay. So that technical assignment is so that you don't panic in August 1st and not being able to technically figure out how to make the PowerPoint have audio on it. So I'm giving that to you as a very short technical assignment. Okay, and I'm expecting everybody to do that. Okay, now this is a group assignment with an asterisk. It is a group assignment I'm assuming most of you will do with the 3 individuals that are listed for your group. If your group decides that you want to do the projects individually and not as a group, so be it. Fine. Everybody do the project individually. If 2 want to do it together and one person says, no, I'd rather do it on my own, so be it. Do it that way. Okay? So there's a little bit of an options, right? Now, if you choose to do it individually, you still have the same responsibilities toward your firm. So if you say, I'll do it individually, fine. Then you put your PowerPoint presentation together, right? And it's got to be the same length as if the group had done it, right? So you can't necessarily say, oh, I'm doing it individually, so I should do a third of it. No. Your boss still requires the information, right? So hopefully that answers that. Try to get this project done sooner rather than later. By the way, one place to maybe start looking is, remember that optional book? Well, if one of you had bought that optional book, there might be a small little section on doing business in that country. If not, there's another starting spot that I probably strongly recommend. And the U.S. government actually has an agency that learns everything there is to know, that, well, a good chunk of what needs to be known about every country in the world, and that's called the U.S. CIA. It turns out the CIA does not just do clandestine, James Bond movie type stuff, but they put together fact books that are unclassified, and you can find it on the web. CIA Fact Book, World Fact Book or something like that, and it will go through every country and give you much statistics about the country of interest. It's a really interesting site. So the one gives you a little bit more psychological, social type stuff, and the other one is going to be giving you information about statistical information and other information. Now, both of those sources are what we call secondary information. They were information collected not for your immediate purpose, but for other purposes which you can use to continue on. Right? Okay. You're going to have to, neither one of them was written for somebody that wants to specialize on being in the bath hardware business, the bath fixture business, right? You're probably going to need to keep that in mind as you're doing stuff. All right, that's probably it in terms of the project, right? By the way, do I care whether you have one spokesman or all three have speaking roles? And my answer is no. That's up to you. That's up to your team to decide how you are going to split the workload, right? Okay. Again, the management team doesn't necessarily want to hear you talk. They want to hear the information, right? And whether they hear it out of three mouthpieces or one, they want to make sure that the team is worked together to give the best product to the team, to the management team as possible. All right. As I close, I want to let you know one of my favorite quotes now. I learned this after coming down to Kingsville, and I can't remember who brought it to my attention anymore. But it is a quote from Mark Twain, from Samuel Clemens. Mark Twain wrote a letter to a friend. And on the bottom of the letter, he wrote, P.S. If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. Okay. I do not want you to pad your presentations with meaningless or not well thought out thoughts. Okay? It's easy to make a paper long. It is easy to make a presentation long. Okay? Nobody wants to hear rambling, right? They want succinctness. Okay? All right. So again, I'm leaving you with that thought from Samuel Clemens. If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. Okay? All right. With that, good luck to everybody. And I hope everybody, if you're seeing this before noon on Monday, remember, you got test one. You got to be doing. Test one is due on Monday of this week, of week 3, and it's due at noon. So hopefully the vast majority of you, before seeing this this video, have already done test 1. All right. Anyways, if you have not, go do it. Good luck. It's open from Sunday noon to Monday noon. So there's a 24-hour period where you can take major test 1. All right? Okay. For the vast majority of you who are seeing this video right now, chances are it's after 12 o'clock on Monday. And as such, you've probably already done the test. Good luck to it, and good luck on this project. And let me know if there's anything you need. Bye-bye.